Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I have this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Dentalpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Costas. Got my great buddy, Kiera Dent, on the line. How you doing, Kiera?
Mark, it's been so long, but I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and thank you for carving out 20 minutes for me today. That's all you're giving me. What the heck?
Why do you say these things out loud to people?
You're like, hurry up, I have 20 minutes. Oh, well, nice to hear your voice too. Gosh,
Mark, I'm just really good.
Too long.
I worked with this really cool guy. His name's Mark Costas, and he taught me that if you have clear expectations, it eliminates frustration. So 20 minutes,
don't
go.
throw that back in my face. Don't throw that back in
I'm sure the other person can wait if you need to go 25. It's fine. I'll move them for you.
So I'm already down to 19. I have a timer going. Okay, so let's get down to business. What's going on? How are you?
Oh, so it's so good. It's fun to talk to you today because I just finished my 2019's final in-office visit yesterday. So it's always fun to like wrap it up, but then there's also met with so many mixed emotions. I don't know, it's the closing of a chapter, but opening of a new one. So that's where my world is. What's your world?
It's funny that you say that. This is my favorite time of year because there's all this pressure to, all of the practices have these goals and we're just on the edge of all of them. So we have this like hard push to end 19 really strong.
Uh-huh.
But then we also have this feeling that we want to start 2020 correct and right and with full energy and everything too. So it's like, just like you said, it's like wrapping up this year and starting another year and planning for all that at the same time. I love it. I love this time of year. It's my favorite time of year. It's like turning a page. It's like starting fresh. I don't know. There's just something fun about the last few days of the year. That's fun for me.
It is, and it's the adrenaline rush of can we do it and how do we move these. Like, how do we make this work? And then it's the flip to the next year. And what does next year have? It's so full of promise and excitement. And so I agree. I think it's all the mixes of all the emotions, which you and I, we are very intense people. And so I think both of us just love that high intensity of emotions that you feel all the feelings in all the different ways at this time of year. So I agree. It's really, really fun and it's exciting and challenging and all the feels.
So in the last 18 minutes, that we have together.
So Mark's goal for 2020 is to be a bebetter friend. Mine is to not set as clear of expectations. Got it. Okay. Let's flip the calendar.
We're going to do another, because it's a tradition now where we do the New Year's Eve podcast together. But I just want a little sneak peek. Tell me what were your highlights of the year? What did you learn? What were your takeaways? Because we were different people on January 1st, 2019 than we are now. And it's a really cool time for self-reflection and kind of look back. And, it's one trip around the sun. So it just seems like a logical time to just pause and say, hey, this went well. I learned this. I won't do that again. So what are your big takeaways?
So I actually
for personal and professional.
Sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's funny because I actually was thinking about this and wondering, okay, how can I drop pearls when I'm talking about myself on this one? What could I do? And something I did the other day, I had a client yesterday ask me, she's like, how do you get so much done in your life? And I said, because I'm forced to sit on a plane for multiple hours I can't use my phone. I can't talk to anyone. That's how I get things done. So
you text me when you're on the phone, when you're on the plane.
Unless I'm flying on anyone other than Southwest, because then I just don't want to pay for Wi-Fi.
That's true. Okay.
Which is so dumb. It's okay. No, I do text you a decent amount. But what I found, I was on a flight the other night and I decided to start reflecting on next year. And I actually started coaching a lot of clients on this exact thing. And I think it gives perspective. And so that's where I kind of want to go today was I went through and I wrote down 2019's wins. And on the other side of the page, so I did like a T graph. So on the left side, I said wins. And on the right side, I said growth opportunities. I didn't want to say failures because I hate failing. And I don't believe that failures exist. I believe they're just results. And so I wrote on this and I just rattled off everything that I could come up with. And I did that first. And then after that, what I did is I started realizing like, okay, that's not specific enough for me. I actually want to dive this deeper. So then I broke my business down into all the parts. And in a dental office, it's really simple. So break it down to your front office, your office manager, your treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, hygiene department, your dental assistant department, your associates, the business, financial, and then also I wrote personal. So I broke it down into all these categories after I wrote my wins and my growth opportunities. And it was really cool because when I broke it down that way, I started to see, and I wrote the same thing, the wins in those departments and also the growth opportunities that I wanted to see. And it was really cool to see how much progress we made this year and why there was progress. But then also it just gave me the direction and the focus for where I wanted to go in 2020. And I did all this before we went to Hawaii. And then when I was in Hawaii, I was sitting there, I think that when we're in spaces where we're not always busy, Hawaii, I started thinking about, okay, this is great. I made the company way more profitable. Thank you, Ryan Isaac. I give mad kudos to him. He really helped me figure out finances and what I was doing and making sure the business was profitable, not just having fun. And I started thinking like, okay, great. I figured that one out of how to make money and how to win clients over and how to hire consultants this year and how to have headquarters and how to have coaches and just different pieces that I really worked through. But then I started thinking, what's my fulfillment piece? Because I'll burn out if I don't have something greater and further beyond. So that's where it got really exciting. And I actually came up with a pretty cool thing that I'm really excited about for 2020 for the fulfillment piece, because that's where I realized when I looked at my growth opportunities in every single category, I wasn't feeling fulfilled. We were just making money for money's sake, filling bank accounts, which is great. And I'm definitely appreciative of that. But why am I doing that was really what I tried to sink in on, because I realized that was the opportunity for growth that was the biggest by doing this exercise.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a cool self-reflective exercise, and that's a great, really organized way to do it. It doesn't surprise me that you did it that way. But when you
I'm not as organized most days? It's totally cool and very accurate.
Yeah. When you are, if you're thinking about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when you're thinking about like first you have to have like shelter and food and water, and then you need to have like some semblance of security. Do you think that, and then you go on up all the way up to self-actualization. Do you feel like the reason subconsciously that you're driving so hard is that you're seeking that security? You want to make sure that if any crazy thing happens, that you need to have like a year's worth of reserves in the bank account? Or what did you drill down? What did you kind of realize that the reason that you were doing all this stuff and working so hard to make things more profitable and to add liquidity to those bank accounts?
Sure. That's a solid question. And I'm glad you asked, because I think it's important to ask that question. And I went off of, everyone knows I'm a mass Tony Robbins fan. And he has like the 6 human needs. And I took that test, and I think in the past, it used to be security. So those of you who know my story or don't, it doesn't really matter. It's just facts on a timeline. A few years ago, Jason and I almost got divorced, and that became a real scary moment in my life. I realized I was not financially secure. I realized I was dependent on someone else, and that was a wildly strong motivating factor to get very, very, very good at business and to find a way to where I could create financial security for myself without being dependent on someone else. So that was my initial reason for starting. And then after that, oh, good night. We're still married and it's great and we have a great marriage. And this year, the goal was to pay off his stupid loans. And anyone who knows me knows that this is a very sore spot in my life. I was so annoyed.
And he's a very accomplished pharmacist. Mm-hmm. And he went to Midwestern University, which is attached to the dental school. And everybody that is in or around or has looked at any of the surveys about like the most expensive places to go to school. Arizona has 2 of the most expensive dental schools in the country, and it's not cheap for pharmacy school either. So I'm assuming that you had 6 figures plus in student loans for him to knock off.
We did. And so at the beginning of this year, that was my motivating push. I had some good friends, the Jeffries, you and I both know them. And last year they gave a goal, and their goal is to pay off their student loans. So I coined it #Jeffrey. And that was our goal this year, was to pay off Jason's loans. And so we went after it. So that was my plan. But then also me thinking of wanting to have a baby in my future. That was my driving force to get liquidity in the business, to build these bank accounts. I talked to Ryan Isaac, the Dentist Money Advisors. They're phenomenal. And he really helped me see like, okay, Kiera, if you want to do this at this point, this is how you need to build your bank accounts. This is what you need to have on reserve. So he gave me a tangible goal that I could go after, and I would know once I get to this point, I'm doing okay. And then I was able to rework the business to figure that out. Now I've had to start working the business with it. And this is like the big change that I did, is just like all doctors, we want to get out of the business. For me, I like the business, but I know I'm also a really great human to be able to grow a human being inside of me. So, I'm going to have to leave the profession to grow a baby. But so that is my driving factor of how do I get this business to be successful without me? So it was really fun this year. I actually took the income of what I would have paid myself as a consultant and actually pulled that out of my bank account. So instead of it sitting there looking like I had all this cash flow, that was like a real hard moment in my business when I pulled all that money out. I was like, holy, I got to make this thing more profitable. So I really just started planning and focusing on where I was going to go. But now like, okay, great. Loans are paid off. I have a business that's I'm so grateful and so blessed. And Mark, you're a huge reason for this success. But I was able to find a way to create a business that's financially secure. So that's no longer a fear of mine. So that security was taken care of. Now I figured out the security of I've got a reserve to make sure my consultants are taken care of if the recession hits or something like that happens. And now it's like, okay, security pieces are there. And on those human needs, or whichever one you choose to follow, I realized fulfillment and having something greater than myself was lacking heavily, which is why now it's like, okay, great. We took care of those things. The kids are fed. My life's good. What's the next step? Is it to grow bigger, and why am I growing bigger? What's the reason for that? Because I didn't have a good why. So it became boring and exhausting, and I don't want to do this. And I was starting to get snippy and snarky, and as grateful as I was for what success I was having, it was also a drag on me because I didn't have something beyond just paying off the loans or having security for my team. Those are great, but it wasn't fulfilling my soul. And I realized one day I was, Mark, you taught me to meditate. There's so many good things about you, Mark. You've changed my life on so many good levels. And I appreciate that. And I honestly, you guys, I will say my life changed and spun for the better by who I'm surrounded by. Mark, seeing you every quarter and us doing that assessment of where we are in the 4 futures literally has helped me map out my life of what I need to focus on in that time. So if you're not doing that and you haven't listened to Mark's 4 futures and you're not doing that, do it, because you'll see massive radical growth in your life in small, simple steps. But that's how it came to me. So I feel like I've shared a lot about me. What about you? I'm going to spin the table on you. That's how I came up with it and why I decided to go the route I was going for this year.
That was really good. Thank you, Kiera. I appreciate that. And thank you for the kind words. It means a lot to me. This year has been the best year and one of the most challenging years too.
You went through a lot this year. I'm going to just put that out there. As one of your good friends that knows the inners of your life, you went through a lot this year. It was a growth year for you on a lot of levels.
For sure. I mean, there's a handful of people, that my inner circle is small, but very, very important to me. You're one of them. There's a handful of people that when certain challenges arise, Leslie and you and Jake and Alistair and Addison, there's a handful of people that I just go to. And I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, we need to circle the wagons. I need some help here. Mm-hmm. But, I lost three associates basically within 2 months in 2 of my biggest dental practices. Mm-hmm. And so I, having taken a solid year off clinical work and was really, really pushing hard to grow DSI and traveling basically every single week, just like you, to grow the business and to speak at dental schools and to speak at different dental conferences. I had to basically put all that on hold all at once because I had to go back to the chair and I really had to keep the practices afloat. Mm-hmm. And I'm a producer. And when I get into producing mode, like I don't have time to run another, gigantic business. So I had to really rely heavily on my team this year. And goodness gracious, we grew by over 25% this year, basically with me kind of being an absentee owner and being able to work on the business maybe 2.5 hours a day when I was working on it 10 hours a day before that. Mm-hmm. So I'm a producer. I'm back in the chair. I'm actually loving it. I have a few, probably 3 really good candidates. I'm super picky about the people that I put as potential trial partners and associate dentists in my practices. So it's taken me a while to fill the vacancies, but it looks like we're getting there. But I will kind of step away from the practices a little bit, but I don't think I'm ever going to put down the handpiece until I physically can't do it anymore, because I realized that a big part, speaking of fulfillment, a big part that I felt was missing after I did step away from dentistry is that I didn't realize it, but I missed it a lot. Like that tactile connection with, it's kind of like meditation. I think a lot of dentists would admit that once the bite block is in and you're prepping a quadrant of anything, you just kind of go into the space, and there's something really special about being good at something, right? And to start with something and then have a physical end product is really rewarding. And I missed that. I missed the connection that I had with my patients, and I missed that. So it's been a really challenging year to try to juggle all the things. I'm a dad of 3. I'm a husband. I have 2 large businesses. I have 6 dental practices. So it's been a challenging year, but I got to thank people like you and the DSI, DSN team and the Horizon team. I was doing Christmas cards. We had over 85 employees now. It's crazy.
That's insane.
I know. So yeah, thank you for asking, but it's been a really challenging year. But when I look back, I'm proud of the results of everything. It's been good. It hasn't been just for the sake, like you said, of adding more money to bank accounts. It's been for a purpose, and I think it was all in all a good year.
I like that, and I'm not taking host mode. We're not on the dental aid team at the current moment, but I do want to jump in, because when I look at you and me in this podcast, I think it's fun because I think you and I, as we always do, just appealed to 2 different pools of people. I'm the one who's like the owner that's in there, who's trying to figure out what my why is and how to almost replace myself in the business for whichever reason. For me, it's going to be to have a baby. Also, I like to think of the business being able to operate without me, because that feels like a freedom zone, which, Mark, you were able to do. So you're in a different zone. But as I listened to your story, I thought, Mark, that's an actually incredible story that you can share, that you did such a good job building up a team of strong people around you that can run that without you. And I always love when I have an opportunity, like I'll have an opportunity in February where I'm literally gone in the ocean for 3 weeks. It's fine. It's totally fine. I'm actually freaking out.
Oh my gosh. I've never gone that long without talking to you. I don't know. What am I going to do, Kiera?
I don't know. You'll be bored out of your mind. You will have
You didn't run this by me.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
You didn't ask my permission before you booked this trip.
Here's the thing. I'm going to Antarctica, and I just read an article like last week where a plane, no joke, flew to Antarctica and got lost. And I'm like, it's no big deal. I have a plan. So if I get lost in the ocean, Mark, you just take over all the things. Okay. That's the plan. But,
oh my gosh.
But I think it's really impressive what you did. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I think it's equally important to when you're assessing, and I did this as well. Do I have the right people around me that are able to take the business on without me? And do I give opportunities in my business to see if my business can work without me? Because I think that when you have to leave the business, there will always be a time when you're pulled from the business or you can't be as hands-on as you want to be, whether it's from an illness or a death or a trip, or life events happen to us all the time. And I think that that's the whole thing that you and I teach about. We teach on systems, and can your business actually function to the level that you have it as without you being there all the time, I think is a true sign of success. So although it was hard and you were thrown, we used to joke that you were going back to jail because I wouldn't be able to talk to you. We'd have to have scheduled calls.
Gosh, I know.
But
so crazy,
how
right?
cool is that to see? And I don't know if you've done this, and if not, I would implore you to do so. But look to see what systems were really strong that are really, really well done, and which ones aren't as strong, because that's an opportunity for growth as well, just like I'm doing right now. And that's where I think it's very fun, because I hope that the listeners today can really put themselves in either your story or my story, because I think we kind of hit both sides of reflecting and being able to see where you're strong and where you can improve in the other areas as well.
Oh, so good. Thank you, Kiera. And my time is up. So,
Stop it! You just ruined an incredible episode. Take it back.
I didn't ruin it. No, I wanted to let everybody know that this is a prelude to our longer New Year's Eve episode, where we'll kind of take our time to wrap through, to walk through exactly what our big takeaways were, what we learned, some new systems and all that stuff. So really looking forward to that. But it was fun catching up with you, Kiera. It's so funny. Like we talked like 3 minutes and then we're like, you know what? We're wasting this conversation. Let's just turn on the mic. So,
it's really true because we honestly just catch up on the podcast. So that's how we really roll. But no, Mark, I appreciate you. And for those of you guys listening, you know I like to leave tangibles whenever I'm on the podcast. So Mark, thank you for having me on. But also I would challenge everybody, and I don't know how you feel, but I would say do the wins and the growth opportunities for 2019 and then break it down per department. And also see if you're like Mark, where you're back in there of what systems are going super well without you there. Or are you on my side where you're looking to possibly how do you grow this and, you know, figure out your financial pieces? Or are you now looking for your why? Or which one is it on all those different areas? And using this time, because I think between the holidays, Christmas and New Year's is a lot of thinking time and a lot of free space that a lot of us don't know what to do with. I think this could be a really incredible opportunity for you guys to really grow yourselves.
Another great tangible tip. That was awesome. Like this time of year, you know, even if you only get like 4 or 5 days off and, you know, there's family around and you just need a little bit of quiet time, get up early, you can stay up late, whatever works better for you. But it's a great time to do this exercise and just to reflect on what's working, what you want for this new year. Are things on track? Are they a little off track? Don't beat yourself up over anything, but just come up with a good solid plan. Great stuff, Kiera. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you, Mark. As always, it's fun to catch up with you and to be on your podcast.
Okay, we'll talk to you very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, Kiera Dent.
And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental 18 podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.